Culture Uncut. This is Culture Uncut. This is Culture Uncut. I am your host, Jason Spears, and Colt fans, we've got a lot to talk about.
It's so much better doing this show after a win. Welcome to Culture Uncut. I'm your host, Jason Spears, and the Colts have won back-to-back games at Lucas Oil Stadium, first beating the Chicago Bears, and now beating the Pittsburgh Steelers by the final score of 27-24. Colts jumped out to a significant lead in this game, 17-0, and then Pittsburgh drove and got a field goal before the end of the first half to make it 17-3. And the Colts pretty much had a handle on the game till late. I mean, it was 17-3, then it was 24-10, and then, things kind of got crazy. And they got back in the game, and it came down to the final drive, Colts leading 27-24, and really a snap, decided the game, because I felt like the Steelers were going to go down and score, or at least get a field goal. I did not feel great about the end of that game, but sometimes you need to be lucky, and sometimes you got to make your own luck. And they snapped the ball in the Fields' face while he was trying to set the protection, and they lost 12 yards, turned it into 2nd and 22, and the Colts were able to hold on after that and shut them down on 4th down and take a knee and win the game. And getting wins in the NFL is not easy, and none of the games have been easy. They've all been very close football games. Even the Packers game, where we were kind of behind the 8 ball the entire game, came down to a Hail Mary at the end. So all of our games have been very, very close, and that's encouraging to the extent that the Colts are playing to the level of their competition. And so far, they've played some pretty good teams. I mean, Houston is solid. The Packers are solid. The Bears are 500, probably the worst of the teams we've played, and they've got a lot of talent on their roster. If their young quarterback starts to improve, which I'm sure he will, they'll be competitive in the NFC North. And then obviously the Steelers are always physical, very good, very well coached team. So they've played some tough teams, and now they play teams that are 0-4 and 1-3. I think, and then they play Miami, who looks terrible. I don't think Tua will be back for that. So the next 3 games are very important. Obviously, going to Jacksonville, we haven't won there since I think I was in high school, which was like 40 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. It actually has been since 2014, so that is a very long time, and they really need to find a way to win. So lots going on with the Colts moving forward. Next 2 games on the road. One in Jacksonville, one in Tennessee. Will be very interesting to see who's quarterbacking for Tennessee. Will it be Mason Rudolph? Will it be Will Levis? I actually think they're a much better team with Mason Rudolph, but hopefully we'll see Will Levis. Their fans seem to think Will Levis is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and Anthony Richardson is the worst. So that'll be fun. It's always a fun week. Titan fans are delusional. So with that said, I wanted to get into the game a little bit. I thought the Colts came out on fire. Richardson just looked amazing on the first few drives. It reminded me of the Tennessee game last year. He just looked to control the offense. He knew where to go with the ball. He was decisive. Obviously, he had one bad throw to Pittman, but everything else was on point. Big plays, running the ball. The Colts looked really, really sharp early in this game, and they were prepared. I think Steichen had a really good game plan going into this game. The defense really looked good as well early, shutting down the run, shutting down Fields. Really a solid job all around by the team early on in this game. I did not expect them to jump out to a 17-0 lead, looking like the superior team, but they did. And they were dominating at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and Richardson was making plays, and then bam, He gets injured, takes a shot in the hip, um, and they bring him back in, and they run I guess a RPO with him, and he keeps and he runs with it, and I think he gets more injured. So I have no doubt. Like, the more I watch him, the more I am absolutely positive the Colts made the right choice as far as this guy, when he, if he can stay on the field, is going to be a very, very special player. I have no doubt. He's a quick learner. If he can just stay on the field, it's really going to come down to that. And it's like I've said before, it's not linear progression. Like, it's going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows. But I mean, like, he came out against that defense and he was on fire, and was making the right reads, making the right throws, doing everything correct, and then he goes down. And it's frustrating because he basically led them to 14 points, and he gets hurt. And so my concern, obviously, this is again another situation where he's running and he gets hurt. I just don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know how this guy's going to stay on the field. It really comes down to that for me, that can he stay on the field? Like, a lot of people talk about how bad he is and he's inaccurate and all this other stuff. That stuff will get cleaned up. I'm not worried about that at all. What I am worried about, though, is he seems to take a lot of big hits. He doesn't like to slide, and I just think that's something he is going to have to learn to do immediately, because he's taken too many shots. Like, you're going to get hit in this league, but if you've got to find a way to make sure that you limit the amount of big hits that you take. And, that's where I'm at with him. Like, I truly believe he can be everything Colt fans want him to be. It's just going to simply come down to, can he stay on the field? He's a big guy. He's 6'4", 6'5", 230, can run, but he just takes too many big hits. And he's got to get better at figuring out that you can't take, like, in the second quarter or first quarter of a game, there is no reason to take an enormous hit. You just slide and live to fight on another down or play another play or whatever. It's the same thing that Andrew Luck had to learn, and that's where I'm at. It's just, I know people are like, he's not injury prone. Like, it's not all or nothing. It just is. Like, he's been injured, and that's it. You can say he's not injury prone or is injury prone. The fact remains, he's gotten injured running the ball. That's concerning to me. Doesn't mean I don't believe in the kid, because I do. I think he's a special person, and I think he's going to be a special player. But they've got to figure out some way to get this guy to slide, get out of bounds, and stop taking big hits, because or it's just going to keep happening. And that's going to lead to us having to draft another quarterback, and I just don't want to go down that road. So hopefully, he can figure this out. They can figure out a way, a plan, something that, where they can still run their offense, but he learns that, he's got to slide at some point. Like, you just cannot keep taking big hits. It's just never going to stop. You're just going to keep getting injured. And the more you get injured, I think the more likely you are to get injured again. And it's just, I dread that for him, because he's so young and he's so talented. But we're 2 years in, and he's played how many full games? I don't think he played one. He played one last year, and he's played 3 this year. So out of a total of, I don't know how many games 17. He played 1 last year, and 4 this year. He's played 3. It's just concerning. So that, obviously, it's a hot button topic in Indy. Again, I don't doubt his talent at all. Like, the more I watch him, the more I know they made the right move. The more I know that if this guy stays on the field, he's going to be a superstar. It's just going to come down to health with him. That's as simple as I can make it. I don't know how. I mean, he's so exciting and fun to watch. It's just very frustrating that, and it's always when he's cooking. Like, it's never a good time to get injured, but like, it just seems like every time seems like he's got something figured out, he gets hurt, and it's just so frustrating. And I'm sure it's even more frustrating for him. You could tell he was really, really frustrated. But the good news about this injury is it doesn't seem to be a major injury. He might miss this week. Honestly, I might hold him out because we never win down there anyway, and maybe just keep him out for a week just to let it heal a little more, and then play him against Tennessee. I wouldn't be against that. But if if he feels 100%, then you got to play him. You're not going to play Flacco. So it all depends on how he feels. It seems to be like a hip pointer type situation. Those can be extremely painful, but I think that, with treatment and everything else, I think it'll probably be a game time decision. I again would probably err on the side of caution and go with Flacco this week, just because you don't want to push it. You just really don't, not with a young player like him. And so I was really excited about the way he came out the gate and played, and that was something we needed to see as fans, and we did. We saw that, and then Flacco comes in, and look, Flacco is a backup quarterback for a reason. He's a solid guy. He can make all the throws, the reads, and all that, but he can't move, and so it's going to be pocket, and there can't be any type of pressure in there. He's going to get sacked. They did a fairly decent job protecting him. I think they only sacked him twice. And he was fine. Like, I was a little I'll be honest, I was a little underwhelmed with his deep ball. His arm looks kind of shot to me. It's certainly better than Minshew, but not what I was expecting. Maybe with a week of work, he'll play, his arm will play better, and they can do some more things down the field. But he looked really off with deep passing, and that's concerning, because that limits what you can do offensively. But with that said, I thought he did enough to win the game. He didn't turn the ball over. There was no terrible throws or bad decisions, and that's really all you can ask out of your backup quarterback. Take care of the ball, make the right reads, and get the ball to your playmakers, and he did that. I thought Josh Downs was immense in this game. Some huge plays down the stretch to keep the offense on the field. Michael Pittman with an enormous first half. A big play to start the game. I think 42 yards from Richardson to him. A beautiful throw. Shot to him right down the middle, and he ran for some yardage. So that was really good to see. So the receivers really, I thought, were solid this week. It's good to have Downs back because he does so many things underneath that can help your outside guys and your running game. And he just makes so many big plays when you need him. Finds a way to get to the first down marker, and it's such a difference between him and A.D. Mitchell. It just feels like A.D. Mitchell's on another planet right now. There's zero continuity or flow to his game. He's getting open, which is the positive, but he just has no type of connection with either quarterback right now. They're trying to get him the ball. They're hitting him in the hole on that play down, where the corner's behind, the safety's coming over the top, and he's alligator arming or not even making an effort to catch the ball, and that's not acceptable. That's just not acceptable. You got to go get the ball, and he hasn't done that, and he's playing soft, and that's concerning. But again, he's young, and I'm sure he'll learn, he'll grow, he'll get better. But he's a very talented player, and he can get open, and that's the positive, because getting open in the NFL is not an easy thing to do, and he is very good at getting releases and getting open, and making good breaks and stuff like that. He's just got to learn how to be aggressive, be a dog. He's got to get that kind of dog mentality. Like Alec Pierce is a dog, Pitt's a dog, Jet Downs is a dog. He's got to be being around those guys will help him. And he's being coached by a legend, so hopefully that'll help. But just back to the offense, I thought the offensive line was really pretty solid considering. I know Braden was had a bit of a injury and he was a game time decision. He played. I thought he did a really good job on Watt. I know he didn't grade out well with PFF. I don't think our line really graded out at all, which is why I don't overvalue PFF because sometimes I think they're wrong. I thought that Braden Smith was fine. I thought Fries was fine. Quentin struggled a little bit with Hayward. He's a load. I thought Tanner, he looked pretty solid. I haven't gone back and really watched him, but it looked like from the plays that they were showing that he was doing a pretty damn good job for his first start. So I thought the line played fine. It's always a concern when you play against the Steelers and you're down in your center and your left or right tackle is banged up. That's a concern. We've seen that before where we went into Pittsburgh. I think it was in 19 or 20, and both of our tackles were out. It was a nightmare. So we blew the game. So I thought the line was fine. Did a really good job considering, and the receivers were good, and then of course Jonathan Taylor was really good again. I just think if he can stay on the field, he's one of the best. He's one of the best in the game. His patience, his ability to read and kind of cut, and his vision is just it's second to none. He's an outstanding player. Just got to keep him on the field. He's just too important to our team. I think he's probably going to be out the next 2 games. High ankle sprain, mild. I think they said he's going to be okay, but I do think that's probably a game or 2 he's going to miss, and that's going to hurt our offense because once again, Chris Ballard, the positions that I was concerned about, secondary, running back. And listen, I like Trey Sermon as a third running back. I don't like him as a second running back. I think we needed to draft somebody, and there was a lot of guys in this draft that I like. Braylon Allen from Wisconsin was one, and a lot of other players as well. And I just thought we needed to take one, and we didn't do it. And listen, I like Trey Sermon, again, as a third back, but as a second back, I don't like him. I don't like him as a feature back. I just don't think there's a lot he can do. There's not a lot of shake to him. He's just kind of your run-of-the-mill running back, and then you've got the other guy, Goodson. He's kind of it's similar. Like he's fine as a third back, but if we're gonna miss this guy for a couple weeks, it's I guess it's gonna be mix and match with those 2 guys, but I just don't think Ballard did enough there, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew every position that he did not invest in or invest or go get functional depth. It was just going to be a problem. And you look at corner, we're down Kenny Moore, Juju Brents, Daniel Scott, a couple other guys. You look at running back, now we're down one of the top running backs in the NFL for at least a couple weeks. The D-line depth is being tested. So he's just got to do a better job, man. And I will say this. The secondary, for the most part, has been fine. Most of that, I think, is probably due to the fact that we've been getting bludgeoned by the run game. And we haven't really played, outside of Stroud, an elite quarterback. I thought Fields was good, but I think we left some stuff to be desired. Jalen Jones had a rough game. Pickens really kind of had his way with him. I thought our tackling was poor. And we've got to play better all the way around for 60 minutes. We played good for 3 quarters. It's just like Chicago. Once we got a double-digit lead, we go in the tank, and the teams go up and down the field. Like we got ahead 17-0. We had them penned back in the first half. They drive, they get a field goal, they get a little bit of momentum going, and then it just goes from there. The defense has got to buckle down and finish games better. The end of that game was a train wreck. I mean, we really had it locked down and we fell apart. Um, and that can't happen. I haven't rewatched it, but I suspect Gus was playing shell coverage, which he usually does, and that's not good. Uh, but I will say, it's a lot better to be ahead and not chasing like we were in the first two games. The last two games we had the lead and we found a way to keep it. I just wish that our team could put our foot on a team's neck and bury them. I wish the defense. I just feel like we're not that type of team. We're not that especially on defense. Like we're just not that type of team where once we get the lead, it's a wrap. Like you feel nervous the entire time, even when you get ahead by 14. You don't know, like 17 or whatever, because you know who our coordinator is. You know the style of defense we play, and it's frustrating because I really feel like we were on the cusp of blowing that team out, and we let them, as Dennis Green said, the late great Dennis Green, we let them off the hook and let them back in the game, and that shit will come back and bite you at some point, and it will come back and bite the Colts if they continue to do this, because they did it against the Bears too. They had, I think, a 12-point lead against the Bears, and they allowed them back in the game, and they did the same thing with Pittsburgh, 17-0, 24-10, 27-17, and they just couldn't put them away, and that's a mark of a good team is when they put a team away. So I thought on defense, I thought Dio was really good, Grover was good, the linebackers speed was all over the field, Zaire was solid. Cross has been a revelation. He's been great. He's improved so much. I'm trying to think. Oh, Womack, I thought. The kid we got from San Francisco, I really like him a lot. He's got experience playing in a really good defense, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him. 33, I think, is his number. I like Womack a lot. I think he should be on the field more. I think he had 2 pass breakups. So I thought he was solid. So yeah, I mean, without Kenny Moore, I thought they did a pretty good job. Pickens is a really, really talented player, and they struggled with him. Um, and Patterson really got downhill on him running the ball, but then he got hurt, so we didn't see him the rest of the game. They bottled up the Najee. They bottled him up. I think he had 13 carries for 19 yards, so they did a really good job on him. Fields is a tough guy to play against because he's electric in the open field and he's elusive. I think he had 5 carries for 55 yards, and they just let him out of the well too many times. And he made some big runs, and he just needed a change of scenery. I think he's going to be the guy the Steelers roll with for the foreseeable future, and I like what he brings to that team. I thought he played a really, really solid game, especially after the first quarter. He really stressed our defense, and those type of quarterbacks are really tough to play against. So kudos to him. I thought he played pretty well outside of a couple things. I think he had a fumble, but he played a pretty solid game. I thought Latu was good for us. Taekwon's always solid. The D line was really pretty deep, pretty solid for the most part. Their running backs, outside of, Patterson, I think ran the ball pretty well, and obviously Fields did, but they had 4 sacks. Dio, I think, got 2 of them, and they put a lot of pressure on Fields, and he's so elusive in the backfield, and he got away from some guys. But for the most part, outside the last maybe 10 minutes of this game, I thought the defense was really probably played as well as they've played all year. We just got to put 60 minutes of solid football together, and I think we'll be all right. And just, talking about Flacco a little bit, I mentioned him earlier. Again, be careful what you wish for. Like people were like, we should bench Richardson, play Flacco. Listen, Flacco was okay. He was not great. Um, he was fine, but this team isn't. They lack. He lacks the run ability. Like, and you need, like, in this offense you need that. He's not going to be able to do the RPO stuff. So that takes away one of our bigger weapons in our offensive scheme. And again, he's a top five backup in the league. We can win with him, but in short term, I would much rather see him short term for sure. He can come in, play a game here or there, or whatever. That's fine. But I like over the course of a season, like his flaws are going to show, just like Gardner's did. He's 40 years old. He's not gonna get better. At some point, like most guys, he's gonna fall off a cliff. And I think his arm, you're already seeing, is not what it once was, or even close to that. So even what it was last year. So, the Colt fans need to understand, like, he's 40 years old. He's not a miracle worker. Um, he's going to come in. He's going to make the right reads. They're not going to. No defense is going to surprise him. As long as when he plays, he takes care of the ball. That's the biggest thing, because at the end of the day, this league is about turnovers, and that was the difference, in my opinion, in this game. The Colts didn't turn the ball over. Pittsburgh did. The Steelers made some self-inflicted wounds, like that snap to the quarterback at the end of the game that really cost them probably the game. The Colts didn't really have anything like that, so that stuff, it's a thin line, man. It's a thin line between winning and losing in this league, and that was the difference in the game. We're missing field goals every week. I'm starting to get really frustrated with our kicker that we're paying $22 million to. I feel like that money probably could be well spent elsewhere, but it is what it is. Ballard loves kickers, I guess. I don't know. But the team is started off in a hole and had a really kind of I thought the Packers loss was kind of a devastating loss, because it was a game that we were supposed to win, and a game that everybody kind of had the same mentality going into, and we just got dominated in that game, especially in the first half. It was one of the more brutal, ugly first halves that I've seen as a Colts fan. And to have the team start 0-2, lose like the heartbreaker against the Texans, and then get stomped out in Green Bay, basically, you very easily could have went in the tank and just started and went down, 0-4 or whatever, lost to Chicago, lost to Pittsburgh. But it shows that Shane really has these guys believing that they've come back, they've evened their record, and they seem to be getting better. It's going to be a test on the road. They did not play well in their first road game at all. Very, very disappointed in that performance. And we know the history of Jacksonville and what that means. And so I'm hoping that they can play a competitive game, as pathetic as that sounds. I don't think we've played a competitive game down there since 2020 with Phillip Rivers. We ended up losing, I think, 27-20. I think the games from 21 to 24, or 21, 22, and 23, they weren't competitive at all. They were over in the first half. So I'm looking for small victories in this one. I think Jacksonville probably wins until the Colts prove otherwise. I'm going to pick them to lose in Jacksonville every time. At this point, I want them to be competitive and have a chance to win the game. That's where I'm at with this series and with playing down there. I don't know what it is. It reminds me of when the Colts play in Pittsburgh. They just cannot win there, and it's frustrating as hell. But I'm happy that we're back to 2-2. The team looks better. Unfortunately, the injuries are piling up. We've now lost our two starting defensive ends, our starting defensive tackle, our starting nickel, our starting running back, our starting quarterback, and actually, I think we've lost our entire defensive line. because Lewis, Sampson, DeForest. Well, no, we haven't. We haven't. We still have Grover. So Pay hurt too. So just piling up, man. Juju's out. So I mean, it's frustrating. It's already 4 games in, and I feel like they're just piling up on us early on. But that's the game. That's the way it goes. And of course, we don't have a bye till like the fucking, excuse my language, till like the 10th week or whatever. So we're gonna have to play through it. But everybody else has the same problems. I just wish Ballard would have done a little bit more to, you know, add to the depth of our secondary and also our running back core. But he didn't. We have who we have. We'll go out and try to win a game with what we got. So that's how I'm feeling after that game. It's always good to beat Pittsburgh. They're very physical. They're a very well coached team. Was kind of out of character for some of their mistakes that they made, some of their penalties or whatever. But for the most part, I thought the Colts outplayed them and really deserved to win the game. And it's always fun to beat Pittsburgh because it's so rare. I mean, they do it more in Indy than they do it in Pittsburgh, but they don't do it a lot either place. So whenever they win, and they've won back-to-back games against Pittsburgh, they won the one last year, I think 30-13, and they won a close one this year. So back-to-back wins over Pittsburgh. I can't tell you the last time that happened. So that's huge. Now we go to Jacksonville and face, an 0-4 team that's reeling. They had a chance to upset Houston and kind of blew that. So I don't know what we're gonna get. I don't know what kind of Jacksonville team we're gonna get. Are we gonna get a hungry team, or are we gonna get a team that's falling apart? They seem from the outside to be falling apart, but that the remedy for that team seems to be getting the Colts on their home field. So they're getting that this week, and maybe that's what they need. I know the Jags are favored, as they should be. Yeah, so with that, that's where I'm at, guys. Hopefully we can get, Anthony back as soon as possible, and JT. I'm honestly more worried about Tyquan. His injury looked bad. I'm not sure how serious it is. Steichen hasn't really said, but just from what I saw, it did not look great. And Tyquan is a really, really good player. You can count on him. He's where he's supposed to be. He's a hard worker. He's just one of those guys that's easy to root for. And I hope that it's not another season-ending thing for him, because I think the last couple of years he's had season-ending injuries right around this time, and that would be devastating because he's such a good player and he means a lot to this defense. So I hope it's not serious, but it certainly looked like it to me. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. This has been Culture Uncut. I'm your host, Jason Spears. I will be back next week after the Jacksonville game to talk about, the good, the bad, the ugly. Hopefully we'll get a win and break that streak, because it would be beautiful to be 3-2 going into Tennessee to play the Titans. So I hope everybody has a good week, and I'll talk to you soon.